Hey guys, welcome back to Discover SPRINGFORD. I'm standing in front of Tuned Up Brewing Company, located at 135 North Main Street in Spring City Borough. Inside, owners Jeremy and Clint are going to talk about how they went from having a brewery in their garage to becoming the local watering hole right here in Spring City. I'm Geoff Desiato, a local realtor, aspiring actor, and transplant to the Springford area. And I'm on a mission to find the best that Springford has to offer. I'll be interviewing local business owners, civil servants, and other prominent members of the community to find out what makes Springford a great place to live, work, eat, and explore. I invite you to join me on my journey as I discover Springford. Jeremy, Clint, thanks for being on the show today. I really appreciate it. So why don't you take us back to the beginning? Jeremy, why don't you start just because your name comes alphabetically first.
Okay.
Burke. So I'll let you kind of let the people know where you grew up and how you came to be here at Tuned Up.
Sure. Yeah, I grew up in Buffalo, New York. Lived there almost all my life till college. Met my current wife when we were both going through ROTC in college. And through a bunch of different movements and traveling, we kind of bouncing from place to place, we eventually landed ourselves down here in the kind of Collegeville, Springford area. And, come to really fall in love with this place. I think it's just a great place to live and reside.
Yeah, I think we just moved here in May, which is one of the reasons I'm doing the show. It's just kind of, I've bounced around for a while and, now buying a house in this area, I really kind of trying to shortcut the process of becoming a local. So by getting immersed in the community as much as possible, It's been good. So it's definitely, the fact that it's the marriage of a small town with, anything you possibly need is 5 minutes away. Mm-hmm. I think that's a very attractive piece to that. So What is, you said ROTC, what is your background outside before you got into the business end of brewing and that kind of thing?
I served in the Army for a while. Part of Virginia National Guard. I bounced around. I was in Pennsylvania Reserves for a while. I did a tour in Iraq as an advisor for the Iraqi Army. In addition to that, I worked full-time for a 3M company for many years in sales, working up in the Boston area and then down here in the kind of Philadelphia suburb area.
And when was it that you did your tour?
That was 2005 through 2006.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, thank you for your service. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
So, when did you get involved in brewing? Was that something as a side hustle at first?
No, I actually got a homebrew kit as a wedding gift when I was married in '95. And as soon as I got home from the honeymoon, I started homebrewing and just playing around with it. And initially, it was a disaster.
Almost got divorced.
Got divorced, yeah.
Probably.
Yeah, I had found a new passion in life other than my wife. It was homebrewing.
Yeah.
And it was disastrous
95,
at first.
that seems like, that'll be to cut you off, that's
23 years.
That's pretty early. I feel like that's before it was trendy. I mean, that's way back from what I can
back
remember.
then it was, you went to the local hobby store and maybe found one or two kits available.
The old Mr. Beer kits.
Mr. Beer, yeah. I used to buy all these different kits and take stuff out of it and try to make something other than what was designed in the packaged menu. And it was tough getting a hold of the right stuff that you really needed. You just kind of followed those directions and you had a basic beer and it was drinkable. And, the best thing about it was when you made a beer that was good and you're like, I don't need to spend a lot of money at the beer store to make this myself. Great. And so it was kind of cool. And it just, it slowly but surely took off. And I think like many homebrewers, where it really starts to take off is when you link up with other people who are doing it as well. And that's when Clint and I got together about 10 years ago. We both started getting really into homebrewing, and we actually made it kind of like a job, almost just brewing way more than the average homebrewer would. And to us, it was all about what else can we brew, what types of beer can we brew, how much more can we do in a day, trying to expand. And this was before we even talked about creating a brewery. So.
Yeah, so this was all in addition to the 40, 50, 60 hours a week you were doing in the and then all this serving, and then also with the job that you had.
Yep.
So it was definitely from a love of it, not from making it a
I think it went initially from a hobby to something I was passionate about, and then eventually it grew into something where it was this is what I do on my weekends. This is what I do when I'm not at work. And, some people play video games all day. Some people garden. Some people
drink beer.
Beer.
Some people drink it. Some people create it. So, well, that's a good segue then to just hear a little bit from you, Clint, a little bit of your backstory, and then we can kind of hear about Tuned Up from the two of you. But why don't you let people know where you're from and how you got to where you are now?
Yeah, I'm from born in Western Maryland, Garrett County area. Grew up on a farm, kind of a hick redneck. But oddly enough, my family was a non-drinking family. Never really drank anything until I married my first wife, or my current wife. And she is literally the reason why I drink. Not so much that she drove me to drink, but her family, her grandfather introduced me to craft beer and good whiskeys and everything. So had I not married her, I probably wouldn't drink. So, kind of spawned into a...
She was your gateway into the world. Yeah.
Into a love of craft beer. And when I get into
She's
something...
going to come to the door any minute.
I know, right? I'm like,
no, she's in Sweden. We're all good.
Okay, I was just saying,
I wouldn't talk like this.
I could see beads of sweat coming down your forehead all of a sudden.
So that's kind of where I got into craft beer. Got into brewing. I've been a paramedic most of my life, firefighter paramedic. Was working for Trap Fire Company at the time. That's where me and him actually met. He and I actually met. And kind of started the brewing together. Was also the music from Tuned Up, the Tuned Up name, the guitars. I was in a band at the time, and we, as we were, brewing beer, we'd have band practice. We'd move the brewing equipment out of the garage and pull the band stuff into the garage and kind of just annoy the neighborhood up one side and down the other. It was great.
Yeah.
And that's, I guess, just as much as we need to know about.
Yeah, that's fine. So you both play? You're both musicians?
I dabble in it a little bit.
He's learning.
Yeah.
I'm learning, yeah.
Yeah, you got to be able to take the guitar off the wall to impress the patrons, I'm imagining.
I'm not impressing anybody just yet. This guy maybe, but...
But where we first kind of, I guess the segue in, where we first kind of got the idea, maybe we should see what we can do here. It was actually my house. We had a band practice. When we do practice, we'd have a barbecue, basically just, I'd barbecue some stuff. We'd end up getting all the neighbors around. They'd come over to the house, drink some beers. We did the prototype bar at my garage off the side of it. We had a 4-tap bar, 4 taps up. I don't know, about an 8-foot bar. Built a little room in with a fireplace. Made it kind of nice. And we were standing there one day after band practice, and there were, like 20-some-odd people standing there from just the neighborhood hanging around. And we're standing behind that little tiny bar just pouring beer. We went through like 2 sixtels of beer that day. I was like, man, we might be able to sell this.
You're like, if we're doing it, we might as well do it.
Start charging for it,
yeah. That's right.
So that's where the seed kind of got planted. We'd already done all the prototype stuff, practiced on everything, so it was kind of natural for us when we came down here and got the space we did the renovations ourselves, did all the woodworking, and we're slowly building one room at a time.
Yeah. Well, that's cool, because I feel like a lot of times people get an idea and then they just jump on it, but they haven't done like the work up front. It almost seems like you guys did the reverse. Like you did all the work and then realized, maybe we should actually make this into a real brewery.
Bigger.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you basically had the whole operation going,
right,
and you just had to expand it and make it and set work hours and do that.
I would say even today we're basically a glorified homebrew operation, just on steroids.
Yeah.
That's really all it is. We're not, we don't have several $100,000 invested into a brew house system. We have taken our smaller homebrew system and slowly but surely expanded it bigger and bigger and bigger. And, every time we expand a new level and we can produce more volume and do things faster, and we say, all right, what else can we do? And we start expanding a little more. And it's actually been a perfect business model for us because, it allowed us to kind of, jump into this, but without cannonballing into a deep end of uncertainty. And
like taking out massive debt and going to the point where you're trying to manage something, just the two of you, that's massive. You can kind of adapt on the fly.
Sure.
So it seems like that's a great lean and mean is, I guess, how they describe
Absolutely.
it. Right? So that's good.
And we basically started the business out of our allowance. And then our allowance started getting bigger as we made the business grow.
That's good. Yeah, and then it just goes right back into the business, I would imagine, the more that you guys have coming up. So how did you decide on this spot, and what brought you to this spot specifically, as much as you care to share about
that?
Yeah,
it's funny. We looked all over the place. Skipback, Limerick, I mean, you name it. We looked at every industrial park, trying to find something that was good for us, had enough potential for growth, but also wasn't going to just completely deplete our funds.
Right.
And everything was really expensive. We looked at a lot of different locations that are not even too far from here, and we ended up, I was up here at George's one day, George's Music, for a guitar lesson, and he stopped by to get some guitar strings or something, and we just got chatting with those guys about us struggling to try to find a place to, set up operation, and, they had said, well, have you checked out Spring City at all? And like, I hadn't even thought of it, and as many times as I've walked up and down Main Street, never really bothered to look into the buildings and see what was there, and they said, well, look, just about everything is empty, on the commercial spaces, and you should really check it out. So we left, walked down the street, and just started looking at everything, and we got down to this location, the bottom of the hill, and this, our landlord had a for lease sign on the window, and he had his rent written right there, and we're like, well, that's cheap. So we start looking in the windows, and can only see about halfway back through the room, but we thought, let's check it out. So we called him, and next day he came out and met with us, and it was a dump for sure.
Sorry, Norm.
But it was.
What was it before? Do you guys know?
It's got a really
variety of a million things.
Variety of history. A lot of bars, a lot of random businesses.
But what really benefited us most walking in here to the actual what we were paying for rent was we come in and immediately we signed the lease, gutted the place.
Yeah.
And we found the overhead vent fan back here from when it was Andy's bar back about 20 some odd years ago. And it still worked. Hadn't been used in 20 years, but it fired right up. It's like, well, that's going to make our life easy.
Yeah.
The walk-in was still downstairs from when it was the bar. All we had to do was basically just redo the reefer unit on it, and it was fired up and running. So it kind of just fell right into our lap, And
did you guys get that feeling like when you first walked in? Did you start to kind of flash forward in your mind and see things like as they could be, or was it like, oh my gosh, what are we going to do with this?
No, we did, and actually, it's funny. Like any decent business plan, our operational view of this place changed a lot since the first day we walked in.
Right.
I mean, this bar right here was not going to be here. We were going to have a small table or a small bar up front, about 6 feet long. Because back then, when we first got into this place, the current laws in Pennsylvania would only allow us to offer tastings to customers, and then we could fill growlers for takeout. That was it. We couldn't serve glasses of beer and have people pay for it and sit here and drink beer. And
because of the fact that you were designated as like a home brewing?
Well, we were a manufacturer only.
Okay.
We would have to get a brew pub license and go through that whole fiasco.
Gotcha.
But fortunately, once we got in and started working on this place, the laws changed.
Really?
Yeah, the laws changed, and they allowed us basically, without having to change our licensing and going through all kinds of legal loopholes or whatever, we were allowed to, serve glasses.
Wow, that's crazy.
It was a huge game changer for us. I mean, our projected revenue pretty much just doubled at that point of what we could do out of here. So instead of having a 6-foot bar, now I've got about a 26-foot bar.
Yeah, I mean, it's impressive. Did you guys build this yourself?
We did.
Wow.
We built everything ourselves.
So did you put all the wood on the walls and everything?
We did. Just, we painted everything where it needed to be painted, and everything else. The walls behind us are all old pallets that we acquired.
Yeah,
and
that's cool. It's got
pulled them apart, stuck them up. The wood lumber for the bar top all came from Spack Sawmill up in Worcester. Actually, the bar rail came out of a company called Forest Materials up in Buffalo. And it just, it was cool kind of as things started to fall together and seeing how we could start doing a lot of this stuff on our own. Even things like as simple as getting bar stools. We get on Craigslist and found a company in Northeast Philly that was going out of business, and they were trying to gut everything they had, and we said, oh yeah, that's cheap. Let's go get that. So,
well, that's the great thing. I mean, based on kind of what you guys had said, like adapting and moving as you grow instead of going all in and then being like, well, what are we going to do? Like buying things on the cheap up front, you can always then justify replacing it or going a different direction as opposed to making a huge financial investment up front and then you're stuck with it.
Right.
If you guys decide to get different bar stools or whatever, if you get them on the cheap at Craigslist, that makes it a lot more easy to to make that decision. I would think, exactly. So that's really cool. I mean, it just seems like that once the idea started, the dominoes started to fall.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure there was obviously a lot of time in between all of those events. But when was that initial conversation that you guys had about going from just the backyard brewery to actually getting a space and going into business?
That would have been.
It's been a while.
That would have been probably winter of 2013.
Okay.
Roughly.
Yeah.
And that's because at that point, that's where we kind of realized we're making great beer. Even like other people that are avid home brewers would drink our beer and they loved it. And everybody we would serve, we actually started converting a lot of what I would call craft beer virgins. And just people that never really had it before. And we were like, look, what do you drink? Oh, I like Miller Lite, or I like this or that. Try this, and then try this, and give them a few different beers. And, before we were even opening our doors here, we started converting people to the world of craft beer. And it was really cool. And it was around that time we're like, God, we could do this. We totally could do it. And then it was, again, it was kind of like, all right, let's take a step back, start to build a business plan, figure out what does it really take. Right. And that was, the biggest thing was all the research into not how to make beer in volume. It was, what do I got to do for the government to be allowed to make beer in volume? And that was probably the hardest and worst part about the whole experience. It was just all the bureaucracy.
Yeah.
I have. Hardest was coming up with a name.
Oh yeah.
Oh god, yeah. The
How
worst
many different names
experience.
did you have?
About 100.
Really? Well, that's funny because it actually pairs pretty well with the vibe that you guys are going for. Because if you've been in bands, that's just as hard. It's coming up with that band name that sticks. Bands that I've played in, it's been
what was
70 different incarnations.
We would come up with a name, and or a group of names, start kicking them around, and I'd just sit there. Like we had one night in particular, we sat in his garage, drinking our Big Booty Stout, which is our Imperial Stout. A mistake to be drinking a lot of that all night, and somebody throw out a name, I'd start Googling it. You
gotta see if it's already
just trying to find out. And I sat through a really good seminar that Sam Adams put on about trademarking, and they actually had a lawyer out of Harrisburg put this thing on and talked about how you got to really research a name and what to look out for and the legal aspects of it. And so I had to find out, did any A, is another brewery using that name? B, do they have a beer that is that name? And then we also got to look into wineries. Wineries are notoriously litigious. So I started researching wineries, and anything I could find, does this name come up in any shape or form? And it was awful. It was probably the most unmotivating experience because you come up with a name, you're like, oh, I'm picturing the logo, I'm picturing T-shirts, I got this. This will be great. Nope, somebody's got it.
So not only did you have to look up other breweries, you actually had to look up to see if there were other brands of beer.
Sure, brands of beer, wineries.
Because they could always...
Even homebrew companies.
Yeah, and names, names for their, whatever they call their... It might just be that variety of beer that they serve, but if it has that name...
Yep.
Oh, man, that's
like
that's
if somebody had
at
the time, if somebody had a tuned-up stout or whatever, and then we named our business after that, it could be a matter of time before that entity came after us and say, hey, you need to cease and desist using that name. And then you decide, do we want to take the legal gamble and go for it, or do we just cut our losses?
Right.
And again, what made that more troubling was we couldn't even establish ourselves as a business until we had a name. Exactly. I can't incorporate, couldn't file for licensing, a tax ID, anything until we had a stupid name. And it got to the point where we were there in his garage one night. It's got to be 2-3 in the morning, and we're just tired,
spitballing,
angry. We had like
no judgment.
Came down to like Tuned Up Brewing and maybe one or two other names. I don't remember what. And I'm Googling and I'm not finding anything on it. And finally, I'm like, wait a minute. All right, Tuned Up works. This works. What do you like? What does everybody like?
So then, before we got
We're
to
going
that
with
part, we actually found the last step in the process. If nobody had it, it wasn't that kind of situation. You had to go through Urban Dictionary.
Oh, yes.
There's things that I have no idea what that meant until I looked at Urban Dictionary. We actually had a couple was like, nope.
No. Sounded like a cool name until, I didn't know that was a fetish. Okay.
Yeah, people ruin stuff.
Great.
Like, it's incredible. Like a word that meant something totally harmless and innocent, and now it's ruined forever.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot, Urban Dictionary.
It's kind of like when you're going through naming your child, and
right.
somebody used to, we're going to name our child this name, and somebody always inevitably says, my friend had a child that name, and she died of cancer.
Yeah.
Why would you do that?
I know.
Now I can't name my kid that.
That's my wife's a teacher, and she always said certain names are ruined for her. Like if there was a particular kid in her class that was a troublemaker or whatever, she's like, that name, you're dead to me. So we had to pick names where she didn't have any students with those names previously. So.
Definitely staying away from the name Clint then.
Yeah. Well, she hasn't watched the video yet, but I'm sure. So from 2013 or December, whatever you said that was, to when you got this place, when was that? Like actually signed the lease?
We found this, it would have been June of 2015.
Okay. So that's like almost 18 months of legwork that you guys are doing.
Yeah, and we started
my garage was actually a federally licensed brewery.
That's true.
Oh, really?
That was where we were going to start on my garage, but not to mention names, but the borough we were living in. Not any of the good ones down here, but the borough that I was living in wouldn't let us operate there just to do a small brewer-only operation. So we found this place.
Yeah.
But yeah, it took us, we moved in here September 2015. So it was about 6 months of just working and, and we were ready to go probably within a few months. I mean, in my mind, if I can pour beer and nothing's going to fall on anybody, I'm open for business, And I was willing to let all this other stuff kind of come along as it went. But just, again, going through the licensing stuff, the LCB was actually pretty good. I was surprised. I thought they were going to be the big pain in the butt.
No,
they were wonderful to deal with.
Just for
the federal government was the problem. Is the problem.
Put an ad placement for the LCB.
And the LCB stands for, sorry, just for us ignorant people.
Pennsylvania Liquor Control Board.
Liquor Control Board, thank you.
Yeah.
I know someone's going to be like, that's good.
And at the federal level,
business, right?
we deal with what is now called the TTB, or Tax and Trade Bureau. It's the kindler, gentler name for the ATF.
Okay.
And
the TTB doesn't raid you with guns.
Yeah. Right.
Especially if you live in Waco.
Yeah.
But they, it's just, you'd file some paperwork with them and they would tell you, all right, we'll get back to you in like 30 to 60 days maybe. It's like,
oh, wow.
Can you,
like how do you make
if they were a
for
business, they would have failed,
Yeah.
So a lot of it was waiting. And when we got our final licensing information, like we got an email back saying, okay, everything's approved, you guys are good to go. We literally went over to the front door, flipped the sign, and said, Macewell, let's just open.
Wow. Oh my gosh. There was no grand opening party.
We didn't even have the tap rail up. We had this little converted freezer
kegerator,
into a keg, turned into a homebrew kegerator, basically. We were lifting the kegs in and out of it. Honestly, when we opened it up, we didn't think that we'd get anybody in here, right?
Yeah.
We figured our friends will come down so they can hang out and buy a beer and, this, that, and the other. But we opened the door, at first, we ran out of beer the first couple days.
We had six or seven beers on tap the first weekend.
Did not expect that.
By Sunday, I had 2 beers left.
That's incredible.
It was amazing. So that following weekend, we didn't have other stuff ready to go. So we had 2 beers, and our Irish Red and our Little Booty Stout on tap. That was it.
Wow. And that's a good way for people to get used to the varieties that you have.
What was cool is that people came in and they actually loved it, because not just because they loved the beer, but because they said, this is awesome. We were here last weekend, you had all this, I'm like, it kicked, and like, that's cool. Like, they just saw the allure of this, like, kind of like little teeny grassroots operation just slowly sprouting away. And I think people since then, we've got a lot of loyal followers that love to just see, all right, what are you guys doing next? We'll have people that come through the door that haven't been here in a month or two, and they look around like, when did this happen? Like, when we open we open that side of the business, people still come in now. We opened that up early August, and people come in like, when did this? When did you do this?
When you first rented, was it just this section right here?
Just this half of the building, yeah.
The outside behind us there it was closed off.
Okay, and that was another
business was in there.
Business
it was an antique store type place or whatever.
So when you as you were expanding, you were able to expand next to yourselves and open up the wall. That's great.
Yeah.
And that was just in August, you said? That
Yeah.
was open? Wow, okay.
Yep.
So what are the main operations that you guys do during the week? Like what are you hours, and then what do you offer to everybody when they come in? As far as it looks like you have entertainment.
As far as
I
like
would
when we're
imagine.
open
Yeah.
and whatnot.
Gotcha.
Like
We're here generally about 9 or 10 days a week for about 27 hours a day. We have gotten to the point now where we have open mic night. We're starting to build up a decent following for that. This runs on Thursday nights.
Okay.
Friday, Saturday nights we have different acoustic duos, trios, usually for music.
Right.
And Sunday we generally tell people that we just stand here and lie to you.
Okay.
Crack bad jokes.
Yeah.
Things like that.
What else would you expect from a local beer brewery? Right?
Yeah.
The playful banter with the bar staff and the patrons. That's why people come in.
And that was, speaking of that, that was one of the other things that when we first opened that I really found we liked, because we were really deciding at what point, it's like, do we want to put TVs in here?
Yeah.
Obviously we don't have televisions. Sorry for people who are making shows and stuff.
Yeah.
But what we noticed was, what kind of, I guess, sealed it for me was, we come in, it was like one of the second or third weekend we were open. We had kind of a full bar around here, and they were all people that were local that just kind of walked down from town here
to check out the new place, yeah.
And they were sitting here and they were talking to each other. They weren't staring at a television. They weren't on their phones. They were talking to them. Realized,
wow.
You live like, I live here. Oh, you live here. It's like, so they kind of realized, hey, we're all neighbors. So these folks would start coming down and hanging out here,
That's awesome.
So it's kind of like we're starting to build like which I think we still are, that kind of a community little meeting place where people come down.
The watering
and chat.
hole, yeah.
It was really cool to see that kind of develop. And that was one of my, things that I really liked that, it's like, okay, I don't want TVs now.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have guys come in and say, yeah, you should get some TV. You always have the guy who knows, you should do this.
The guy that has the genius idea for the business that he has not started himself.
Right.
Yeah.
If you had football games in here, I'm like, I don't want football games.
Yeah, everybody has their ideas. And I'm like, well, there's nothing stopping you. Go ahead and do it. Go ahead, learn how to homebrew, open up your own brewery, put TVs in it.
We have Wi-Fi, bring your tablet, sit over there and watch a game.
I don't care. And we do. We actually got a couple of guys that love this atmosphere and love that it's kind of low-key and relaxing. And they'll come in with their iPad and plug a headphone in, and they're watching a ball game or something, and they'll sit wherever, and it's great. They can accommodate that. They'll use our Wi-Fi for it. But at the end of the day, I always think about, I love Victory Brewing Company is one of my favorite breweries, and every time I go there, I sit at the bar, and you're sitting there. After a while, you realize, oh, my neck hurts because I'm staring up at the TV. And nobody really interacts unless you came with those people. And it's just cool to be in this environment where literally, like, he's not kidding, people meet each other for the first time and realize they grew up a block or two away or the next town over and maybe went to the same school. And it's just kind of neat, to see this kind of interaction. Even just, we always, people always say, oh, you should never discuss politics, religion, whatever, in public. And, if you go back to 50s and before that, that's what people did on the weekends. They sat out on their porch, neighbors came by and they talked politics, religion, and whatever. And we don't do that anymore, and that's why we all fight over stuff, because we don't know. And inevitably there are conversations that sprout up, and I think everybody generally knows, hey, let's just keep it civil, and here's how I feel, here's how you feel, and it's not about who's right or wrong. It's I don't know. It's just cool. It's like we're the melting pot,
Well, it's awesome because you're. It's brewing is essentially like an allegory for that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you're bringing in all these different things. There's all these different flavors and tastes and everything, and you're.
That's pretty good.
Yeah,
I like
it's you're going through the process. It's fermenting together. Yeah, no problem. Trademark Discover SPRINGFORD.
There's been at least 2 occasions in here late on like a Friday night that we have solved all the world's problems.
Oh, yeah.
The problem is we don't have a secretary. Nobody wrote it down.
That's right. And it was after quite a few of your big booty stuff, so you don't know. It's like when you wake up with a dream, or from a dream, and you're like, I just solved it, and then you can't remember what it was. I wrote many a great songs in my sleep, and then I woke up and tried to write them down on the notepad next to me, and it didn't work out so well.
Man, it made sense when I was asleep. What am I doing?
All right, so we're getting into the new year coming up, and what are some of the things that you guys are hoping to accomplish? You opened the doors in 2016. So you had, was that a partial year by the time you opened? When did you guys
open? It was March 1st
March.
of 2016.
Yeah. So 2017 is your first January 1 to December 31st operation.
Yeah, the biggest goal that we're almost completely done with, we're like 99% of the way there, was getting the other half of the front of the house done. We got a lot of little things we're still doing. Once that's done in the next few weeks, then we're shifting into building out our kitchen.
Yeah.
And, again, I've been to a lot of other breweries, and everybody says, "Oh, if you had a kitchen, it'd be great." Well, yeah, sure it would be. We'll get there, and I'm okay with it because
that's the next thing we're doing.
Yeah.
Whenever we can, Friday and Saturday nights we'll get food trucks scheduled to come park out front. It's tough to get them booked, but when you can get them, it's great. It kind of handles the food aspect until we're ready to take that on our own, and that'll be a huge step for us. And we're hoping to try to do that by the end of this year. I would say that's probably our biggest goal right now, is to get the kitchen up and running, and then from there, 2018, I've already got a list of stuff that I want to really get, we're looking at, we want to get into canning, we want to start expanding our sales circle and go much further out, get out in all of Pennsylvania.
Distribution and stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. And plus we're definitely, this year we missed going to Great American Beer Festival, but we're definitely going to go next year. We've been to a whole bunch of festivals, and the amount of feedback we get at festivals, like people coming up after a while, like, dude, the hands down best beer here, right?
Wow.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All from your little.
I should put a tip jar out and see how. But it'd be interesting to see how we do at something like Great American Beer Festival. The World Beer Olympics, I think, is next summer as well. There's a lot of things we want to do there.
That, right?
There's a little bit of running involved, yeah.
I always wanted to do one of those events that like looks like it requires no athletic ability whatsoever. There's always one of them. I don't know. I'm always like, is this an Olympic sport? What is it? Like backgammon or something? I don't know.
But yeah, there's been a lot of cool little things that we've accomplished along the way. Like, once we, we kind of did the right thing. We worked with the borough as far as getting, the zoning for different things, like even doing music. You got to get permits to do everything in this world. So once we're able to do live music, we're booked every Friday, Saturday night to do live music. And then now we're even on Thursday nights, we do an open mic night. So instead of, think of it as, it's not karaoke, but it's, if you're a musician, and whether you want to try to get booked here or you just want to come and play, it's a perfect venue to come down. We have one of our regulars comes down and he hosts it, and he'll play until people show up and sign in the book. And we've had some great,
that's some really great local
bands. Rofo Audio was here recently. God, it was phenomenal.
Yeah.
We just
interviewed them
actually.
Horse and Carnage, yeah.
Blues band. They came in and played.
They just moved into Spring City area. Yeah, they're really good.
I think they're coming back Thursday night. Tomorrow.
Yeah, they'll be here Thursday.
Thursday night. Yeah.
Yeah, that's I interviewed Raymond from Rofo Audio just last week.
Oh yeah, Ray's a good guy.
So we had a great conversation. So I got my Rofo Audio magnet on my car. I got it in my T-shirt. I'm ready to go. So yeah, that's awesome. That's what, and I think it's really exciting that you guys are here, just because someone told me, when a town is ready to blossom, they usually put a brewery in. Not that the town is technically responsible for the right guys to come in and put a brewery in, but they at least give you the permits to do that. So
and Spring City, I think, has the potential to be the next Phoenixville. Right. And the biggest thing was there's a parking lot across the street. The borough is working on obtaining that and then building it out and rehabbing it, if you will. I think if they accomplish that, the sky's the limit for this borough. There's so many businesses that could fall in here, and the way the main street is set up, it's perfect for a lot of small boutique restaurants and shops and stuff. I think this could be just one of the coolest places. Around the corner, there's a new building that's being rehabbed, and they're putting in an artist studio.
The artist studios, yeah.
Yeah,
I saw that.
I just think that could be cool. It'd be interesting. I don't know how it's going to work, but the thought of it, like if they could pull that off, that would be really neat. Just to have. You could have music studios in there. You could have people doing painting or whatever. It just could be really
crazy. It could be any type of
anything you'd want.
I think it's really cool, man, to see. That's one of the reasons why we moved to this area, because I felt like it's right on the verge. You know what I mean?
It totally is.
Yeah, and for you guys, I think it'll be cool if we can together see Spring City and even Royersford boroughs just really start to get thriving, and then we can look back and be like, hey. Well, we were there, you know, again, and you guys, I think, are playing
the good
a
thing
crucial
too
role
is
in
the local municipal government. They have a vision too, and
Right.
they want to see. A lot of them have grown up here or grew up here, moved away, and have come back, and they see the potential too. And that's been our best thing. Was, I mean, day one getting in here, we started to connect with those guys.
Yep.
And you know, they come in, we talk about what we want to do, we ask them what they're working on. This year was the 150th
Right.
anniversary for Spring City, and we did whatever they needed us to do. We set up beer gardens, we promoted events, you know, whatever they wanted, we were going to do it, because having that stuff promoted could only help us. And you know, and they have been wonderful for us. And you know, and I think that's the same thing that every community needs, is that they need that municipal government to have the same vision that the residents and the businesses do. And I think, you know, we have that here. It'll take time.
Yeah.
But I think whereas maybe Spring City might have been kind of trending downward for many years, I think we're not even bottoming out. I think we've already started to have a good upward trend. Yeah,
that's great.
Because we've had a bunch of new businesses move in, and they're good people, and you know.
Well, and the thing to me too is like, well, you were at the Music and Market Festival the other night. What was it, Saturday? Yeah. You know, and we've done that since we actually moved in. I mean, the first one that we went up and did, I don't think we were even open yet, were we? We just opened. No. It was.
I remember.
I don't think we were open for the first one yet. No, because we
weren't.
Beer that we just kind of donated.
We just gave it, because we couldn't sell it. So.
Right.
Yeah,
so
that's a good way to get people hooked on the product. Right?
Yeah. But the exciting thing that I've seen is each year since we've been involved, just been 3 years. You know, I don't know what went on previous to us being here.
Yeah.
But this year was the one that I saw people the most excited. You know, people were. I remember the one guy was standing there. He's like, he yelled, "Spring City's the next big thing." You know, I'm like, that's awesome.
Yeah.
But
and it takes consistency. You know, it's not going to happen in 1 year. It's not going to happen in 2 years.
Right.
It's that people see that you're committed to the long term.
Right.
That's when it starts to.
Yeah.
But it was just a general excitement that I could sense from a lot of the folks that live here in Spring City, and it's a good thing.
Yeah, I think I think that having the 150th, seeing that people are really community minded, I think it kind of wakens up something that may have been, you know, dwindled to a flicker in their own life.
Right.
That they see. Oh no, we are Spring City.
Right.
You know, like they get the pride that maybe they kind of forgot about. It starts to come out, and hopefully that's you know, if this show can kind of be a catalyst to that as well. You know,
awesome.
then that's as much as I can ask for. Well, thanks guys, this has been awesome. As we wrap up, if there's anything else that you would like to talk about that we may have glossed over, or anything that you can think of, otherwise I'll just ask you to. Let people know how they can get a hold of you, follow you on social media, all those links. You can use this as an opportunity to shout those out. So,
yeah, I mean, I'd say, well, first and foremost, I guess getting a hold of us. You can find us on Facebook. We do all of our events and everything we list on Facebook. We're on Instagram, Twitter. Haven't done much with Pinterest yet, because I don't have too many people asking me, "Hey, why aren't you on Pinterest?"
Well,
but
he's only on there when he's trying to get basket weaving.
I actually gave my phone one night to a lady who was here, and she started going on my Pinterest to help me out. But of course, she tagged all these things like, you know, hair braiding and whatnot. So all my emails that I get from Pinterest are about hair braiding and stuff. But yeah, I mean, we're trying to do any social media that's out there. All of our beers are listed on Untapped. You can find us on.
Follow us on Untapped.
Yeah, Untapped is probably the biggest.
With no E, right? It's Untapped.
Right.
Yeah, no E and Untapped.
Beer menus, that app, we're on there as well. We try to update that, you know, as much as we can. But yeah, generally, I mean, people ask us all the time about different types of social media, like Snapchat and everything. I'm like, you know what, my 14-year-old daughters do Snapchat. Like, I could do it, but I don't need it. You know?
Yeah, because the biggest challenge is finding out what type of content you would put on that platform, because they're all unique.
Right.
So it's like, how can I make brewing content on Snapchat?
I mean, you could do
take some
any
research and some time.
Social media thing that's out there.
Isn't that what you do on Snapchat? Put rabbit ears on stuff.
Yeah,
exactly. That's pretty much
it.
You
could make the beers talk, probably.
Yes.
Like glass, get a full stout beer, put a face on it, and then use your voice and like make it high pitched or something. I don't know. If you do that, I get credit for it.
I would say you know, one of the biggest things we try to communicate to people is, you know, we change our beers around, you know, not as often as some other places do, but pretty often. And we have some beers that are on just for short periods of time. Like our peanut butter brown ale has a real cult following to it, and it's been one of the most popular things we make. And we decided early on we were only going to make it like 3-4 times a year. And when we get it on, it comes on, we announce it like a few days before, and people start showing up for it. And they're like, oh my God, I heard you have peanut butter. And it lasts maybe a month, and that's it, And I think as we start getting into like canning, like right now we're looking at bottling some of our special barrel-aged beers that we have, and we might only have a couple hundred bottles. So it's, that's something we really want to dive into, and we've had a lot of people ask and have said, yeah, I'll even come help organize, the lineup. Well, if we were going to start selling at, noon or something, I got a guy already who wants to stand out front with the clipboard and take names down and, like you're waiting for concert tickets.
Yeah. That's all well good, but we got to hope for that line first.
That's right.
That might be a boring day for you.
It could be, yeah.
All right. Well, Jeremy, Clint, thank you so much for your time. Appreciate you opening up your doors early, I guess, to let me come in and take a look at the place. It's beautiful. I love all the guitars. As a guitarist myself, it's always a nice vibe and atmosphere to walk into. So I encourage you guys all to stop down 135 North Main Street, right in Spring City Borough, Tuned Up Brewing. Stop in and tell them Geoff from Discover SPRINGFORD sent you. That's all the time we have for today on Discover SPRINGFORD. I encourage you to stop in to see Clint and Jeremy at the Tuned Up Brewing Company. It's really exciting to see businesses like this starting and thriving in Spring City and Royersford. And I encourage you to get out there and discover all of the amazing things that SPRINGFORD has to offer. Until next time, Godspeed.